Tell that to the mother whose little girl got shot. Tell her we're sorry, but it's cast in stone who we will and will not try to reach. After 36 years together, Tom Selleck is walking away from it all. The blue blood star just broke down, telling friends he can't do it anymore, not with what's happening at home. His wife Jill's shocking diagnosis has forced him to make the hardest choice of his life. Sources close to the actor say the 79-year-old hasn't slept in weeks, torn between the career he loves and the woman who saved him. Tom Selleck was born on January 29, 1945, in Detroit, Michigan. His mother, Martha, was a homemaker. His father, Robert, was working as a mechanic on B-29 bombers in the U.S. Army during World War II. While his father was overseas, Tom lived with his grandparents for the first 2 years of his life. In 1949, when Tom was 4, the family left Detroit and drove to California. They had little money and packed only what could fit in the car. They used the GI Bill to buy a small house in Sherman Oaks, a quiet part of Los Angeles. Life in California wasn't easy. Tom's dad worked on straight commission as a real estate agent, which meant the family's income changed from month to month. But even through tough times, his parents taught him the importance of hard work, honesty, and staying grounded. Tom didn't grow up dreaming about fame or acting. His world was all about sports. He loved basketball and baseball and spent most of his time on the court or the field. By high school, it was clear he had real talent. At 6'4", Tom stood out. He was offered a basketball scholarship to Montana State University, but he turned it down. His goal was to attend the University of Southern California. The problem was, he couldn't afford it. Instead, he enrolled at Valley Junior College. He stayed at home, worked part-time at a clothing store, and saved money. His patience and effort paid off. He transferred to USC in his junior year and earned a basketball scholarship. During the 1965 to 1966 season, he played for the USC Trojans. He only appeared in 7 games and didn't score much, but coaches noticed his toughness and team spirit. In November 1967, with the Vietnam War still going on, Tom made a big decision. He joined the California Army National Guard. He became part of the 160th Infantry Regiment and served until 1973. He attended officer candidate school and earned the rank of second lieutenant. He was later promoted to sergeant. During his service, he was activated during major events like the Watts riots in Los Angeles. At the time, he had a 6-month acting contract with 20th Century Fox, but when he left to serve, the studio dropped him. He came back to find the deal gone. Even so, he never regretted the choice. Before his acting career really took off, Tom tried something different. In 1965, while still at USC, he went on television for the first time. He was Bachelor number 2 on The Dating Game. He didn't win. He came back in 1967 for a second try and lost again. Years later, he joked about it. His answers were awkward, and his confidence was shaky. But the funny part is, even though he didn't win the dates, he caught someone else's attention. Producers noticed his looks and presence on camera. He might not have had the charm then, but he had something that made people stop and watch. That unexpected attention led to an invitation. 20th Century Fox asked him to join their new talent program. It was a formal training ground for actors, built to shape unknown faces into future stars. For 2 years, Selleck stayed in the program. His contract was renewed 4 times, but still, no big roles came his way. Eventually, Fox dropped him. They'd invested in him but didn't follow through. He was out. Most people might have given up right then, but he didn't. He kept showing up to acting classes, kept taking small jobs to pay the bills, commercials, modeling gigs, whatever he could find. He appeared in ads for Salem cigarettes and Revlon's Chaz cologne. He knew they weren't glamorous, but he treated every role as practice, something to help him get better. There was a moment during this rough stretch when Selleck considered quitting. He went to his father for advice. He didn't know if chasing acting was worth it anymore. His dad gave him a simple answer. He said, "If you don't go after it, you might get to be 35 and have regrets." That line stuck. Selleck thought about it, long after the conversation ended. It was the push he needed. He decided to stop hesitating. From that point on, acting wasn't a side experiment. It became the goal. Throughout the early 1970s, he kept building his resume. He appeared in episodes of Lancer Bracken's World, Marcus Welby, MD, and even Charlie's Angels. These roles gave him some screen time but did not help him build a name. His part in Lancer was so small that many viewers never noticed him. Even though he kept working, he faced constant rejection. Selleck had the kind of looks that should have helped. He was 6'4" and had a strong presence, but casting directors often didn't take him seriously. His height and clean-cut appearance worked against him. He later said that someone like Dustin Hoffman had an easier time landing big roles because he looked more like a regular guy. Selleck looked like a star before he was one, and that made it harder to convince people he could act. From 1974 to 1975, he played Jed Andrews on the soap opera The Young and the Restless. It was not a flashy role, but it gave him valuable experience. Soap operas filmed quickly. He had to memorize lines fast and stay sharp on long shoot days. It wasn't glamorous work, and it didn't make him famous, but he learned how to handle the demands of television. He later said that he turned down a longer contract on the show. He didn't want to stay comfortable. He was willing to take the risk and wait for something bigger. In 1978, he finally got a break that felt different. He was cast as Lance White on the Rockford Files. The character was the opposite of James Garner's Jim Rockford. Rockford was rough and skeptical. Lance White was smooth and idealistic. He was always polite, always lucky, and almost too perfect. But Selleck made the character work. He played Lance with charm and gave the audience something to smile at. James Garner noticed. He was already an established actor, but he took time to mentor Selleck. Garner told him that the best roles had flaws. He taught Selleck that being too perfect could make a character dull. What mattered was honesty. That advice stayed with him. When Selleck later starred in Magnum P.I., he used what he learned from Garner. He made sure the character had depth. When Magnum P.I. first aired on December 11, 1980, nobody expected it to change television the way it did. It was a detective show set in Hawaii with palm trees, sunsets, and a Ferrari. But it turned out to be much more than that. At the heart of it was Tom Selleck, a tall actor with a quiet charm and a serious mustache. He didn't just play Thomas. Magnum, he was Magnum. And through 8 seasons and 162 episodes, he gave the character something few shows had back then: depth. Tom Selleck wasn't a big star when he landed the role. He'd done some modeling and guest roles on TV, but nothing. That made him a household name. When CBS picked up Magnum P.I., he saw a chance to do something different. The original version of the character was flashy and over the top, with gadgets and a James Bond attitude. One draft even had Magnum using a hang glider with machine guns. Selleck didn't want that. He argued with the creators. He said he didn't want to play a superhero. He wanted to play a real person, someone with a sense of humor, someone with flaws. That decision changed everything. Selleck helped reshape the script. Magnum became a Vietnam veteran with emotional scars. He lived in a guest house on a rich author's estate and drove a Ferrari he didn't own. He took small jobs. He wasn't rich. He wasn't always confident. He had friends who were loyal and a past that still haunted him. Viewers connected with that. It felt honest. Instead, the role went to Harrison Ford just 3 weeks before filming started. Ford became a movie icon. Selleck stayed with Magnum. He has never expressed deep regret, but others have said the missed chance still stings. In a 2024 interview, Selleck said, "It wasn't exactly a cross to bear. Magnum was the best thing that ever happened to me." Karen Allen, who starred in Raiders, later said, "One of the great regrets of his career is not having the chance to play Indiana Jones." Despite that, Selleck shaped one of the most iconic characters in television history. Everything about Magnum became part of pop culture. The Hawaiian shirts were real shirts from a small shop in Honolulu called Paradise Found. Sales of those shirts jumped by 300% while the show aired. The Ferrari 308 GTS became a symbol of 80s cool, but it wasn't easy for Selleck to drive. At 6'4", he barely fit inside. The crew had to strip out padding, move the seat, and bolt it in place just so. He could fit on camera. Even his baseball cap had meaning. The navy blue cap with the Detroit Tigers logo wasn't just a costume. Selleck was born in Michigan and was a lifelong fan. He wore the cap because it felt right for the character. In a 1986 interview, he was asked if he still followed the Tigers. He replied with one word: always. In 1983, during the height of Magnum's popularity, the Tigers saw their merchandise sales go up by 18%. And then there was the mustache. Thick, well-groomed, and impossible to ignore, it became a style all its own. Gillette reported a 22% increase in mustache grooming product sales during the early years of the show. They called it the Magnum effect. It was more than just a fashion statement, it was a signature. The critics noticed too. Selleck won an Emmy in 1984 for Outstanding Lead Actor in a Drama Series. He followed that with a Golden Globe in 1985. The series was nominated for 25 Emmys, including Outstanding Drama Series in 1984. All of that success came not from playing a perfect hero, but from playing someone complicated. Tom Selleck's journey into Hollywood stardom hit its highest point in 1987. That year, 3 Men and a Baby came out and changed everything for him. The film was directed by Leonard Nimoy, who most people knew as Spock from Star Trek. No one expected it to become a massive hit, but it did. It earned $240 million worldwide on a budget of just $11 million. If you adjust for inflation, that's over $500 million today. The story was simple. 3 carefree bachelors are suddenly forced to take care of a baby. Selleck starred alongside Ted Danson and Steve Guttenberg. Audiences loved it. The film became the highest-grossing movie of 1987. There was also a strange rumor tied to it. Some viewers claimed they saw a ghost in one scene. People paused the VHS and pointed to what looked like a boy standing behind a curtain. It spread fast, but the truth was less spooky. It was a cardboard cutout of Danson's character that someone forgot to move. That didn't stop the movie from becoming a classic, and it helped Selleck prove he was more than just the guy from Magnum, P.I. In 1990, Selleck took a different path. He starred in Quigley Down Under, a Western set in Australia. He played Matthew Quigley, an American sharpshooter who thinks he's been hired for a normal job, but once he gets there, he finds out he's been brought in to do something terrible. The role was serious and layered. Selleck wanted it to feel real. He chose his own costume. He picked the Shiloh Sharp's 1874 long-range rifle himself. He even selected his own horse. He followed the same advice once given about John Wayne: choose the horse that looks best with you on it. The movie didn't do as well as Dances with Wolves, which came out just weeks later and stole most of the attention. But Quigley Down Under gained a strong following over time. Many fans now call it one of Selleck's best roles. He didn't stop there. In 1989, he played James Rainwood in An Innocent Man. This was a man who gets sent to prison for a crime he didn't commit. The film showed prison life in a very raw and real way. It was a huge shift from the charming and calm detective he had played for years. Selleck leaned into the darkness of the story and proved he could handle more serious roles. Then came Mr. Baseball in 1992. Selleck played Jack Elliott, a fading baseball player who ends up in Japan trying to save his career. Selleck didn't just act like a ball player. In 1991, he joined the Detroit Tigers during spring training to get ready. He faced real pitcher Tim Layana. He fouled off 3 pitches before striking out. It was a small moment, but showed how committed he was. Later in his career, he teamed up with Disney. He did voice work in Meet the Robinsons in 2007, where he played Cornelius Robinson. It wasn't a big part, but it showed another side of him. His voice had weight and warmth, and it worked well in animation. His connection with Disney also went back to earlier live-action work like 3 Men and a Baby, which was produced under Disney's Touchstone Pictures. In 1996, Tom Selleck made a surprising move. Known for playing the tough and charming Thomas, Magnum in Magnum, P.I., he joined the hit sitcom Friends as Dr. Richard Burke. He first appeared in the episode The One Where Ross and Rachel during season 2. The moment he walked in wearing a tuxedo, the studio audience erupted. It was clear everyone recognized the mustache and the movie star charm. At first, Selleck was only supposed to be in 3 episodes, but his character became a fan favorite. He ended up appearing in 10 episodes across seasons 2, 3, and 6. Off camera, though, Selleck admitted he was nervous. He hadn't done a sitcom in years and told The Kelly Clarkson Show he was scared to death. Courtney Cox helped him adjust. She made him feel welcome, which helped their on-screen chemistry. During the romance between Monica and Richard, their relationship was more than a casual plot. It showed emotional depth. The age gap between Monica and Richard was 21 years. That was part of the story. But the real issue came later. Richard didn't want more children. Monica wanted to be a mother. That conflict gave the storyline real weight. It wasn't just about dating. It was about life choices and heartbreak. Years later, Selleck took on a completely different role. Between 2005 and 2015, he played Jesse Stone in a series of 9 made-for-TV movies on CBS. The first film, Stone Cold, aired in February 2005 and drew 18.2 million viewers. Jesse Stone was a small-town police chief in Massachusetts. He was a former LAPD officer dealing with a divorce and alcoholism. The role was quiet and serious. It gave Selleck the chance to show another side of his acting. The character never fully recovered from his past. The creator said Jesse had 2 fixed traits. He would always have a drinking problem, and he would always be in love with his ex-wife. That kind of emotional damage was new for Selleck, but he made it work. While filming the Jesse Stone movies, he also starred in Blue Bloods, which began in 2010. That show lasted 14 seasons and ended in 2024. Selleck said Frank Reagan, his Blue Bloods character, had to follow rules. Jesse Stone didn't. Jesse often made his own rules to get results. That contrast helped Selleck explore both sides of law enforcement characters. He didn't just act in the Jesse Stone movies, he also worked behind the scenes. He was an executive producer from the beginning. By 2009, with Jesse Stone, Thin Ice, he had a story by credit. He later co-wrote 2 of the films, Death in Paradise in 2006 and No Remorse in 2010. These films had a slower pace, long silences, Jesse thinking alone, looking out at the ocean. Those moments came from Selleck. No Remorse was praised for being more focused. Viewers liked the deeper character work. Even Robert B. Parker, the author of the Jesse Stone novels, said Selleck had nailed the character. In 2012, the 8th movie, Benefit of the Doubt, still drew 13 million viewers. After Blue Bloods ended, rumors began about a possible return to Jesse Stone. In 2001, Selleck took a big risk. At age 56, he made his Broadway debut in 1,000 Clowns. Opened on July 11th at the Longacre Theater. He played Murray Burns, a comedy writer fighting to keep custody of his nephew. The show had originally starred Jason Robards in 1962. The Broadway run lasted 83 performances and closed on September 23rd. That was shortly after the 9/11 attacks, which had a major impact on theater attendance. Critics gave mixed reviews, but many praised Selleck for stepping outside his comfort zone. In 2007, he returned to network TV with Las Vegas. He joined in the show's 5th season as A.J. Cooper, a billionaire and former Marine who buys the Montecito Casino. He stepped in after James Caan left the show. To prepare, Selleck watched the entire previous season on DVD. The production started early that year in April due to a possible writer strike. The final season had only 19 episodes. His character had a complex past. Cooper was a cattle rancher, worth $2 billion. He had served in Vietnam and earned a Bronze Star. The season ended with Cooper faking his death and showing up at his own memorial. But NBC canceled the show on February 20th, 2008, just 5 days after that episode aired. Blue Bloods premiered in September 2010 and aired until December 2024. It had a tough time slot, Fridays at 10:00 p.m., but still pulled strong numbers. The final episode got 6.68 million live viewers and was expected to reach 11.4 million within 7 days. Selleck played a big role in keeping the show steady. His character led both a police force and a family. That mix of law and personal life helped the show stand out. Every episode also featured a family dinner scene, which became a major part of the series. These scenes showed the Reagan family talking through their issues. Selleck and Donnie Wahlberg both said the dinners brought the cast closer. The scenes looked simple but were hard to film. Each actor had to show what their character was feeling without saying much. Over the years, fans watched big moments happen at that table. Chimey and Eddie's engagement and Henry's 60th work anniversary were two highlights. Despite strong ratings, CBS canceled the show in May 2024. Selleck was frustrated. He felt the network didn't fully value what they had. In an interview, he said, "The show's more popular than ever. We're certainly not out of ideas." The cast felt the same way. Wahlberg and Bridget Moynihan said the show was more than work. It felt like home. Before the mustache became iconic, and before he was one of television's most recognizable faces, Tom Selleck was just a young actor trying to make it in Hollywood and trying to build a family at the same time. In 1971, when he was 26, Tom married Jacqueline Ray, a model and actress. Along with the marriage came a family. He adopted Jacqueline's son, Kevin, and raised him as his own. Back then, his career was still in its early stages. He was doing commercials and small roles, hoping for a breakthrough. They were living quietly, building a life together, and Tom was focused on finding steady ground in a tough business. But by the late 1970s, things between them began to shift. They separated in 1979 after nearly 10 years of marriage, although they didn't file for divorce right away. Instead, they made the unusual decision to live separately but stay in contact while figuring out what to do next. Even through the tension, Tom stayed close to Kevin. He never walked away from his role as a father, even when the marriage was falling apart. Tabloids didn't hold back when Magnum PI began filming in 1980. The rumors exploded. People assumed that his rising fame caused the split, but Tom made it clear that wasn't true. In a 1982 interview with People, he said he and Jacqueline had been separated for 6 months before he even started the show. He was frustrated by the media's narrative, saying, "That's the meaty story. Spouse dumps spouse after she gives him the best years of her life, but it's not true." That same year, the divorce was finalized. It left a deep mark on him. He called it one of the greatest sorrows of his life and admitted he had always planned to be married forever. That heartbreak made him cautious. He became more private and protective, unsure if he was ready for another relationship. Then came 1983. Tom was in London filming Lassiter, a crime thriller, and something unexpected happened. He started going to see the musical Cats again and again. At first, people thought he was just obsessed with the show. He went 8.5 times. His co-star Jane Seymour even said she found it strange. She enjoyed the musical too, but not that much. What she didn't realize was that Tom wasn't going back for the music. He was there for one performer, Jillie Joan Mack, a 25-year-old dancer playing Rumpelteazer in the show. Tom was drawn to her energy, calling her the embodiment of joy. At first, Jill didn't even know who he was. When someone told her Tom Selleck had been staring at her from the audience, she responded, "Who the expletive is that?" That kind of honesty seemed to only make him more interested. Their first date was a simple dinner. According to Jill's agent, that was all it took. Things moved quickly from there. When her contract with Cats ended, Jill made a major decision. She left England and moved to Hawaii to be with Tom while he filmed Magnum PI. 2 years later, in 1985, he took her to a White House state dinner hosted by President Reagan. It was a big moment. That night became famous because John Travolta danced with Princess Diana, but not many people know that Tom also danced with her. Jillie even danced with Prince Charles twice. She later said Charles told her, "I was so happy you rescued me, and NY's friends kept stepping on my toes." It was the start of a very public chapter in what had been a quiet relationship. They took their next step on August 7, 1987. Tom was 42, Jillie was 29. The wedding took place near Lake Tahoe in Nevada. It was carefully planned to avoid media attention. Tom's brother Bob handled all the arrangements under fake names, Tom Jenkins and Susie Mark. Only close family was invited. Jill hid her dress in a small bag. Tom traveled light and stayed out of sight. Even the minister didn't know who they were until minutes before the ceremony. They only allowed Polaroid photos so no negatives could be leaked to the press. Still, even the most planned events can go sideways. Right before the ceremony, there was a sudden noise coming from Jill's room. She was talking fast and loud. Tom later described it as a commotion. They had forgotten something huge, the marriage license. The wedding almost didn't happen, but the minister offered a solution. He said he would sign the paperwork anyway and drove all the way to Reno himself to sort it out while the rest of the family went to dinner. When Tom looked back on that day in an interview from April 2024, he said that moment was the most vivid part of the wedding. "That's what I remember most," he said, Reverend David saying, "I'll sign the thing anyway." It was chaotic, a little funny, and completely unforgettable. A little more than a year later, on December 16, 1988, Tom and Jill welcomed their daughter, Hannah Margaret Selleck. Her birth changed everything. Tom was still starring in Magnum, PI, but he knew something had to give. That same year, he walked away from the show. His career was at its peak, but he chose family. He said, "If I wanted a family, it was time to move on. As good as this business has been to me, that's not what life is about. Life is about more important things." They raised Hannah far away from Hollywood on a 63-acre ranch in Ventura County, California. That space gave her freedom. She grew up around horses, not cameras. Tom stayed out of the spotlight too, saying, "My first priority is time with my family. There are certain things I'm just not comfortable with." That mindset paid off. Hannah didn't follow her parents into acting. She became a top-level equestrian. She even competed at the Olympic level and later launched her own company, Descanso Farm, to train and develop show horses. The ranch became more than just a home. It was a symbol of everything Tom believed in. He bought the property in 1988, the same year he left Magnum. It had over 1,500 avocado trees and old oak trees that had stood for more than 100 years. Tom doesn't even like avocados, but he kept the grove going as a business. Over the years, the land faced many challenges, especially California's brutal droughts. Tom lost many trees, some of them over a century old. He said, "That just breaks your heart." But after a few good seasons, he noticed they were coming back. They're sprouting a lot of healthy growth. The ranch also stirred up controversy. In 2015, local officials accused Tom of taking water from a public hydrant during the drought. A private investigator hired by the Caleguas Municipal Water District claimed 1.4 million gallons had been delivered to his ranch over 2 years. The problem wasn't just water use. It was that it came from a district where Tom didn't live. The case was settled when he and Jill agreed to pay over $21,000. Still, the ranch remains his sanctuary. Every day, Tom rides his ATV across the property, checking on the wildflowers and reading the morning paper. When asked if he'll keep the ranch after retirement, he gave an honest answer. "That's always an issue. If I stopped working, yeah. Am I set for life? Yeah. But maybe not on a 63-acre ranch."